Yeah, it's yeah, a bit of a confidence boost for the team and everyone to prove that we've got what it takes to win a leg. But now we have to get a good result to back that up with. There's a bit of pressure on to go well coming into Auckland.
No external pressure. I don't think you feel that you have to win. The level of the competition is too great to think that you can just go and win a leg. You always want to. Just if we have the opportunity to do it again, we will do. We'll try and take it.
So yeah, we regret it. Grid file was a bit different than we thought. AkzoNobel are like, I can read AkzoNobel on the mainsail right there. It's a bit of a luck of the draw really. The grid file said that the other guys would fall into a big hole. And once we'd made the decision to go up there based on the grid file changed. So it's the way grid files work. It's a fugazi, alright? It's a fugazi. It's not real. Peter and Roger just get very excited about this sort of stuff. So this is weather. So this very excited about this.
There's this big cloud coming. We hope there is the front that we are waiting for to have the wind from the north and go downwind straight to New Zealand. Because right now we are still in Japan. Not exactly the right way to go to New Zealand, but yeah.
Salvation, maybe not salvation, but it'll definitely help us out. This is the front that we've been waiting for. The payoff would have been if we hadn't got caught out at the beginning. But yeah, this is what we were waiting for. And unfortunately we got caught in light winds and they didn't. But ultimately, still in about 7 days, we'll probably all just converge anyway. So it's all about getting in this and sailing fast in a strong breeze now, picking our modes.
Over my shoulder is Scallywag, and that's really the only boat that we're in touch with at the moment. Still battling, we've still got a front to come through that we're hoping to catch, and that should bring us back in touch with the leading pack. We've actually done pretty well on Scallywag the last night and this morning.
Well, there's quite a bit of breeze coming in behind us, 60 to 80 miles behind us now, front coming through, pushed down a northerly wind. Got about 1,000 miles in that bit of breeze. Before we start to slowly turn to the right and head a bit more south and try and link up with the northeast trades. Yeah, got a certain weight in this, some lateral compass.
I think you can see from the cloud line behind us that we're expecting big things in the next 3 or 4 hours, so get prepared.
Adjusting on the
sheet on the forestay.
So this is a grid file. What it says is that we're a southern boat pushing along the front of the front like everyone else, but really the whole thing's just smoke and mirrors. I think navigators make it up so they can charge me money. Really it's just a bunch of pretty pictures, and whatever happens, happens. All I know is we're now pointing at New Zealand, which is a lot better than pointing at Japan, so I think we're going the right way. That's all I have to say about that.
Oh yeah, just another day in the life of Team Scallywag. Pressure's down a little bit, so not getting fire hose so much, so we're just having a little tidy up while we can. But yeah, no, it's all good, happy days. Looks like the plan, the brains trust downstairs putting into action might be working as we get further down the track, so we just keep believing and keep pushing and try and make the boat go as quick as we can, and we'll see where we get to. how bored you get.
Yeah. I should be sleeping, but I'm not. Food's not that bad. This is pretty nice here. You've got a bit of a hybrid. Mix a couple of freeze dries together and a bit of hot sauce. It's good.
Not very exciting, mate. Groundhog Day here. Get up, steer 110, go to bed. Get up, steer 110, go to bed. Get up, steer 110, go to bed.
It's clearly just in front of us this very strong line, which we all saw yesterday or the day before when it caught us up. And the leaders, because the angle of the front of where they are, they're kind of nudging out of it now. And in front of it there's very little wind. So again, it should give us an opportunity to close some miles as we'll stay with the breeze and with the front of it longer. So yeah, watch this space the next 12 hours.
Hello from Volvo Ocean Race headquarters in Alicante. We have got a lot to get through today. We're going to be hearing from Team Brunel, plus Turn the Tide on Plastic, and at the end of the show, Peter Tans, race expert, behind me there. He's going to be sitting at that station all the way through, monitoring the race, where he's been since the race started. And of course, a 3-times Volvo Ocean Race sailor himself. He knows all about how this race has evolved from a technological aspect to a racing aspect. So if you've got any questions, if you've got answers that you need, get them in the comments below, and we will be putting them to him live, and you can get your answers. And it really is an interesting picture out on the racetrack right now. A big transition zone has started to develop, and earlier on we connected with Team Brunel, wanted to talk to the team. Unfortunately, all of the sailors were caught up with trying to get themselves ready for this new breeze. So instead we had to chat to Jan Ryu before Peter Burling just got free.
We were entering what we thought to be a rain cloud, but it looks like it's a little bit bigger than that. And all the boats were, don't forget, map ferry parked, and we did as well. And we could see Turn the Tide. They're very close to us now. We can see them to leeward, maybe half a mile behind us.
And how much have the conditions changed? You talk about parking up. I mean, what was the difference in wind speeds?
We were still sailing 18 knots or something like that, with 18 knots of true wind speed. And then when we entered this zone or this rain cloud, we went. The wind has dropped down to 3 knots. Now we have a little bit more, and now we have about 8-10 knots, I would say. But lots of maneuver on the deck. A little bit like in the doldrums, actually.
Well, we're seeing the images at the moment from the stern camera, and I'm seeing a difference in what the sailors are wearing. I'm guessing that some people were called up from their bunks.
Exactly. You can see Pete. He didn't really have the time to put the right clothes for this call. He's just called on deck, and he had to go and grind. So.
Yeah, and if I could just ask you, Team Brunel have been leading since Hong Kong, but now the race is pretty tight. What's the atmosphere like on board?
Well, the atmosphere is very, very good. I think the guys are very happy to show and to see that they can. I mean, they are up to speed compared to the leading boats, and they think it's very promising for the future. We knew from the start that the boats will be very likely to regroup in this area, so it doesn't come as a surprise for us.
Well, hopefully it's not going to last too long. The guys above us have just started moving pretty quick now, so we've just gone stacked back on the rail, stretched it down, and there's plenty of rain around, but you know, KP's latest weather had a pretty quick transition here onto about 3 days of tight reaching, so we're just looking forward to getting into it.
And it looks like you've been caught out with the clothing that you've been wearing.
No, I thought it was about time to have a shower, to be honest, and about the only way to do it is just to get wet, get into it. So, it's about time for another set of clothes, so it'll be good.
And on the other side of this transition, what's the breeze that you're waiting for? I mean, what's the racing going to look like?
Well, yeah, like I said before, you know, it's going to be possibly a little bit boring for the next couple of days, if boring's a word for it, but no, it's just tight reaching, kind of slowly building once we get into the trades. Then we're going to go masthead 0, probably J0 after that, and then into J1. And then it looks like about 2.5, 3 days of, you know, J1 reaching at like 65 true, so yeah, we're pretty happy about that because we're going relatively quick in those conditions.
Peter, if you can hear me, that's absolutely wonderful. We'll let you get back to sailing the boat. If you can hand it back to Jan, that's fantastic. Difficult times for Peter Burling and the whole crew of Team Brunel, and indeed for that front four. Let's take a look at what's been happening and when that transition hit, because earlier on in those reaching conditions, we saw speeds of about 28 knots at times. Then 0800 UTC this morning, everybody parked up in that front group, half a knot at times for those boats. Now, all this playing into the hands of Team AkzoNobel and Scallywag, who are trying to cut the corner and sail underneath them. Turn the tide on plastic, and everybody in that front four should be worried, and this is what Di Cafari had to say.
Well, we're just coming up to north of the Mariana Islands, and it's at the same time that we have just met the end of the cold front. And so we're in the transition now, which is lots of rain, lots of shifty breeze, and we happen to have arrived here at exactly the same time as Mapfre, Dongfeng and Brunel. So we're all within sight of each other, all trying desperately hard to make it through this transition. The other side are trade winds, where we get to point to New Zealand and sail fast for about 4 days. So everyone's quite keen to make this transition as good as possible.
And how quickly did this transition roll in? Did you have much warning?
Well, we knew it was coming, but we didn't quite know where we were in relation to the front. And we were only 5 miles difference from the other guys, so we all kind of got there together. And it's literally happened in the space of an hour. So literally we went from 20 knots and within an hour we were totally becalmed in rain. And then there's gusts of 17 knots, then there's nothing, then the same again. Everyone's pointing different directions. So it really is keep the whole crew on deck. Everyone's working really hard to try and get out ahead in this transition.
And what's the key to get out at the moment? I mean, what sort of things are you having to do?
Well, what we're trying to do is keep making gains to the east. All gains to the east are going to pay us back in the long term. And we just got to clear this transitional area and we'll pick up new breeze. And as soon as we've got that new breeze, then we know we'll be upwind and heading in the right direction then.
And talk to me about the physical things you've got to do. We're hearing a lot of sheets being eased on the deck. I mean, I'm guessing there's a lot of action going on up there.
There's loads of action. So literally we've moved all the sails from the back of the boat where they were to the front on the deck split. We've got 2 alternative sails plugged in. We've got 1 person trimming the masthead 0 with Liz driving, trying to keep the boat moving in the gusts and the puffs that we've got. And I've just absolutely sweated my body weight of water out, moving the sack from the back of the boat to the front of the boat internally. And of course it's raining on deck, so it's better to have your foul weather gear on, but it is very warm. So I can't decide whether to be fully dressed or naked at the moment.
Okay, so the front four, you among them, have all been dealt this transitional period that you're going to have to sort of go with. I'm just going to ask you a quick question about the other 2 as well. Obviously, Scallywag, Akzo, quite a bold move that they tacked off after Taiwan, and now it seems like they're being able to hold on to this breeze for longer. What do you think of their position?
Well, they have been dealt the lucky card, annoyingly, because they made a mistake, really, but this cold front they're going to stay in. So they're going to be happily sailing along in 20 knots while we're dealing with this. And their transition looks good. They won't have the light wind area. However, they will have a worse angle in the long term. So we'll have a better angle because it does pay to be east. So we're hoping that does pay off.
So the fight is very much still alive and pretty good for T-Top at the moment. You guys hanging in there with the front runners.
Hey, hanging in there, we are part of the leading group, and it kills you lot to say that, doesn't it? But God, it sounds good.
Oh, I didn't mean that the way it sounded. Thank you very much. We'll let you get back on deck because I'm sure there's a lot going on.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers now.
All right, bye-bye. Bye. Well, to help us understand this difficult transition period, we've got Conrad Coleman here. So, Conrad, Dee was saying Scallywag, Team AkzoNobel played the lucky card. Is that a fair thing to say?
Well, let me throw that back to you. Do you think that they were feeling pretty lucky when they were up by the Okinawa archipelago floating around in 3 knots, sweating buckets watching the rest of the fleet charge off in the distance? I don't think so. You know, they've worked pretty hard to get in this position. For the moment, it seems to be pain. Will it later on? Well, we don't know. Let's have a look at the weather and we'll see how this plays out. This is the current situation. There are 2 big anticyclones in the Northern Pacific, bisected by this cold front that's been causing so much of a stir in the fleet. If you can see there a little bit on the right-hand side, or out to the east of the current leaders, there's that blue triangle of death. So blue, in this case, is light winds, and it's actually kind of reminiscent of stage 2, passing through the doldrums, where it's a case of sort of short-term pain versus long-term gain. If you're out to the east, now you're going to be suffering. We were just looking at the speeds across the fleet. Kai, Scallywag, and AkzoNobel have been making gains on the leaders and have been sailing fastest. Now, if we look forward, however, that eastern position is going to pay dividend, because you can see that there's a convergence east to west as the fleet sails southeast down towards the Solomon Islands, before onto New Zealand. Now, the fact that they're all grouped in together means that the boats that are on the east-hand side are going to be sailing lower and faster. So finally, I think that's the option that's going to pay.
And it's going to be that simple. I mean, we're going to see the fleet coming back together. I mean, it's still going to be tight.
Well, I think so. That really, as we saw with Peter Berlin in the Brunel interview, you know, there's basically, it's just a long reach all the way down to the doldrums.
And this does make our competition a little bit harder for you guys. If you're not aware, we've got this Garmin Verb 360 camera for you to win, and all you've got to do is you've got to guess which boat on which date and at which time is going to be the first one to cross the equator. And with the fleet looking very close, that's going to be hard, but this is crucial. So many of you have been entering, and we've been loving that, but you haven't been entering correctly. You have to tag the team name in order for your entry to count. So take a look at this little video below here. This shows you what it should look like as you're entering in the characters onto Facebook. Once you've put the @ once you have put the team name, a little menu will pop up. Then you've got to select that team name. That is the only way that your entry is going to count. So if you are unsure, have a little bit of a look at the video here, have a little bit of a play with it on Facebook, but you have to tag the team. It is not all right just simply to write it. But Conrad, just before we can let you go, I mean, the competition's finishing on Wednesday at midnight. We've got a few more days. You can enter as many times as you like. What's your entry? What's your feeling? I mean, is there any help you can give people here? Because it's going to be tight.
Well, just before coming on here, I was crunching the numbers myself with routing software, and there are some of you that have been a little bit pessimistic. I've seen a few people popping the number 18 for the 18th of February. Well, you're pessimistic, and computer says no. I think there's going to be around UTC early morning, mid-morning on maybe the 16th. So I hope I haven't given the game away completely, but I think that if you can narrow down your options and indeed enter correctly, then that's going to make the game a little bit more fun for everybody.
Okay, and don't forget that if you get a tie, if you get the same guess as somebody else, the person who entered first, the earliest entry, will be the ones that win. So it pays to be quick and get your answers in. But you can answer as many times as you like. So start now and keep refining your answers as you go. Well, now we turn to news about Vestas 11th Hour Racing. If you've been following the race, you'll know that Vestas 11th Hour Racing are not competing in this leg. Back on leg 4, just 30 miles from the finish in Hong Kong, they were involved in a collision with a non-racing vessel that ended in tragic circumstances. They have shipped their boat to Auckland and are starting preparations for the beginning of leg 7, which will be double points. And we are hoping to bring you more information about that in the next few days. Well, I'm joined now by Peter Towns, race expert. If you've got any questions for the race experts, send them in. Now, Peter, I should probably just start by introducing you to everybody. You sit here on this desk behind us here, monitoring the race. But of course, you know about the race from the front end. You did the race back in 89, 93, 97, and I think we've actually got a little bit of footage of you from the 97 race. Brunel Synergy, just describe this moment.
This is, we got second into Brazil with Brunel Synergy. That's a Whitbread 60 with, this is Roy Highness skipper. This is the finish into Baltimore, where we won the leg from Fort Lauderdale to Baltimore. So that was a big party in Baltimore after that.
And a lot has changed since that part of the race to how you guys are monitoring the race now. And we're getting a lot of questions coming in about some of the technology that we're using and some of the systems that you guys use to keep everything on track and keep everyone safe. And I'm going to come to those in just a moment. But before I do, as a little bit of a treat, just for those fans of the race, just have a little look at this video that we were able to pull out of the archive and just see how far the technology of the Volvo Ocean Race has come.
Most of the yachts have sophisticated navigational aids, and radio beacons on Cape Otway and Cape Farewell give them accurate bearings on their direction-finding equipment to help them through the poor visibility, low-lying coasts and treacherous currents, which make this the most dangerous passage of the whole race. It's hard to use a sextant wearing gloves, but in these latitudes, dressing to go on watch takes the crew a good 20 minutes, as they struggle into oilies over aircrew bunny suits and Arctic underwear.
Okay, well, that is where we started from and where we are now with all the satellite tracking and everything. I mean, it's phenomenal. How often is it that the boats send information to you guys here at Race Control?
We get it every 10 seconds. We get all the data. If we lose the link, then we move to 6 minutes. So the minimum length of time is 6 minutes and maximum is like 10 seconds that we get all the data of the boats.
Okay, when you say all the data, you know, what do you mean there?
Well, it's just not just boat speed and wind speed and position, but also loads on the mast and the bowsprit and sea temperature, wave height, wave period, all sorts of stuff that we get.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, Peter's here to answer your questions about the race, technical aspects as well, or indeed the history of the Whitbread. But we've got some coming in, so let's start with some of your questions that you put in. We've got Gabor Seventiane. I'm going to think that's right. What is the red square on the tracker? Well, the red square on the tracker is the exclusion zone, and somebody else asked a similar question here. Donag Waldron asked, what reason did the race authorities give for making the exclusion zone the extent that it is, the size that it is, and what do you think about their reasoning? So first of all, just talk us through why that exclusion zone is there.
Well, at this time of year, there's a lot of tropical cyclone action in that area. As you see on the screen now, there's one active just offshore of the Philippines, and we've seen a couple going through there, and we don't want the boats to go there and get caught in 60, 70, 100 knots of wind, which would mean that stop the race in the Philippines and restart and all that stuff. So we decided to have an exclusion zone and not have the boats go there.
Okay, well, we've had another quick question here. As you can see, the yellow line just going across your screen, the equator. Nicholas Lubert asked, what team will cross the equator first and at what time? Well, what I would say to you, Nicholas, is you tell us. Put it in the comments below. There's no cheating allowed. Okay, new question then. We've got Vincenz Picapaccio. If a team goes into stealth mode, does this team receive position updates of the other team while in stealth mode?
Yes, they do. They see the position reports like the other boats do, so they get the positions of the other boats, and the other boats get the same, but not their position.
Okay, here's a little bit of a technical one, but a sailing technical one for you. Jack Heather asked, could you please explain the tall black dagger boards just forward of the mast, how, when, and why they are used?
They are used because the keel is canted, so it goes to one side. If the keel is fully canted, you would have a lot of leeway if there was not a dagger board there. Like on a dinghy, you have a dagger board as well to keep the boat from going sideways. And so they use it mostly in upwind conditions, reaching conditions, but in downwind, you see that both boards are up. And it's always the leeward one that's down.
Okay, we've got one from Bart Overing, who asks, Volvo Ocean Race, where are the hydro generators? I didn't see them on the back of the boat after leg 2. I think we're going to maybe be able to bring you a picture of some of the hydro generators, just so you understand what it is that we are talking about. But explain to us what these generators are and why it is we haven't seen them.
It's, well, the hydro generators is a new technology. It's a way to load the batteries, to charge the batteries. And we've been testing them in leg 1 and 2. And that's a new technology that still needs to be developed more and more because of the high speed of these boats. But they are on board, and in certain legs we will start using them if the technology gets more and more advanced and stronger.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of that advanced technology here, because I'm wondering if you could just explain to us a little bit. We do all the live link-ups with the boats and video calls. In fact, you know, the teams send in video, emails, photos, everything comes off the boat, but it's quite a sophisticated system. We're just seeing some images here of the domes and the satellite system. Just talk us through it.
Yeah, we have, at the moment, the boats have 3 domes. The big one down below is the 500. That's a fast dome, that's fast link up to the satellite. So that's mostly used to send the video footage. The other 2 domes, they're called the 250. They're a bit slower and therefore a bit smaller and lighter. And they're on all the time so we can see their telemetry data and we can give them a phone call if there's a problem, or they can call us if there's a problem. So that's the 3 systems that we have, and that's the latest Inmarsat technology that's being used.
Okay, and with these sort of systems, it would be fair to say that as sailors and as followers of the race, we've almost taken it for granted that yes. we can dial into the boats whenever we can, because I'm guessing, you know, back when you did the race, this was not the case.
No, the first time I did in '89 on Equity and Law, we didn't have anything like this. We had an SSB radio, and twice a day we would call in to another boat. One boat of the fleet would be the daily reporter of the day, and we would call in our let and long and to say that everything's well on board, and they would, after collecting all the data, would call race headquarters and give the let longs of all the boats. And sometimes you would not be able to make a connection because it was SSB technology, is old school stuff. Very interesting.
And it's not just the communication, is it? I mean, it's the navigation as well. I mean,
yes.
You know, that's an instrument. I mean, interesting, that's Carlos Husman with the sextant
playing around with it, yes.
But that's not an instrument you see much these days.
No, normally you never use it, although, as you can see, the boats still have it on board, just in case, although they have like 5 or 6 GPSs on board in total. If you would not have any power, nothing whatsoever, you still have a sextant to get
They still carry them in this edition?
They still have them on board.
Yeah. And do the navigators and the sailors, you know, do they know how to use them?
Yes, very simple, really. It's very simple.
Okay, well, I'm going to put my hand up and say that I do not know how to use it. So they're doing much better than me.
It's not easy. But because the boats are moving around a lot, so to get a good sighting is very difficult.
All right, okay. Yeah. Well, we've got another question here about exclusion zones. Sophie Cornelia asks, will there be an exclusion zone in the southern hemisphere for the cyclone that we can see in the map? You know, basically asking future exclusion zones, is it possible just to roll them in?
Yes, it is possible. If something, you know, comes up, then we can put in an exclusion zone and we'll tell the boats that we've implemented it, but we'll give them fair warning, of course. And we are monitoring that constantly, and we're even giving boats the information at the moment what the, you know, from the latest information that we have.
Okay, another quick question here about, Mike Peterson asked about the virtual regatta game. Basically, on the virtual regatta game, it shows a frigate as a safety escort. Is there a real safety escort for the Volvo Ocean 65s?
No, there's not. No. If they're way out in the ocean, Southern Ocean, they're each other's savior, basically. There's nobody around.
And the last time that they went through the Southern Ocean, I mean, there's a point where the International Space Station is your nearest human contact.
Yes, that's correct. We had some emails from the space station saying that we're the closest to the boats right now, so that was probably funny.
And those emails, everything else like that, you know, that's all coming through to that one central navigation desk. I wonder if we can just take a little bit of a look at some of the setup down below. This is where we've got the navigators, but also the onboard reporters as well.
Yeah, no, this is the nav station that you see here. They have 2 laptops side by side, and they swing that whole table around if the boat tacks or jibes. And the media desk is further back behind the bulkhead because that's quite big, actually. That's a big unit. And that sits behind that bulkhead, and that's where the OBR does its work.
Okay, and just talk us through a little bit here. I mean, we always kind of come to you guys in race control. In fact, we sort of pull you off your desk and we kind of put you in front of the camera here to answer the questions. I mean, if you've got any questions in, time is running out, but send some questions in. But as you can see here, there's an awful lot of information going on here. Just describe to me your sort of standard watch. You know, is it busy? Is there periods of boredom? What does it look like?
Sometimes it's never really boring, but sometimes nothing is happening. If the boats are in trade winds and you know they're carrying on and nothing is really, you know, the wind is the same and the weather situation is the same, then you still do we do the routings that they do on the boat as well to see how everything goes. And you do 1 or 2 a day because nothing changes, but you still have emails to go through. boats will have maybe technical issues that they have questions about, so you try to help them out as much as they can. There's always, they're race boats, there's always something going on. They're very wet upstairs and downstairs, so there's always sometimes it's a tiny problem and sometimes it's a big problem.